What I want to show you in this demo is a new web fiction platform called BookChant that I've put together. And I think that you're really going to like it because it's not the same thing that you've seen everywhere else. Okay? Um, I'll just get really quickly to the main point that I'm making here. Um, this is similar to Wattpad and other sites like it, like Royal Road and such, yes, but there's some big key differences. One of the key differences is, as shown on this demo story page, that we have a membership plan built into the platform. And this membership plan doesn't work like Wattpad's pass system. This is more like Patreon. The subscriber subscribes directly to the author, and the author has the same deal terms that they would have with Patreon, where they get the lion's share of the revenue, the 90% of revenue to the author, and the subscriber picks, a plan of somewhere between $3 and $10 a month to get advanced chapters. And this is all integrated into the platform. And the big difference, you got to understand the big difference here is that it doesn't require you to have to drive your audience or your readers to a third-party website, to a different website, to hope that they click on this little link buried somewhere in the story that you've put out there and sign up to a completely different website than the one that they're reading the story on. And the other problem with Patreon, in my opinion, is that you're driving the most passionate fans away from the platform where they discovered the story, which means they stop contributing to the ranking of that story on the platform where all the other people are supposed to be finding your story. So Patreon becomes a closed island. It's a closed system, really, and it doesn't help you grow your story, even if it helps you with the monetization. It's disconnected. So we're bringing it all together. It's all in one. Author Pass system is basically an integrated Patreon into a web fiction platform, and it's the same deal offer as you would get, the exact same revenue that you would get. 90%, minus processing fees and so forth. It's the same thing. And this is a demo page, okay? Now getting back to the start of the page. So this is the home page here. And we click on learn more. You learn more about the website and what it's offering and some of the original content that's on here. I do have at the moment, I've populated it with some of my own personal stories as well as a bunch of public domain stories that have nice pretty covers on them to make them look more attractive. Okay, and we've got specific information just for authors that explains the deal that we have and what's being offered. The other big difference here is that we do have a premium to access the author pass system, but that doesn't just give you the ability to charge users. It also gives you tremendous amounts of data from analytics, real useful valid data, which I'll talk about at length here. But the basic idea is that it's going to be the very similar analytics to what people already receive from existing web fiction sites, but then a little bit more. You're going to have more detailed demographic information about who's reading your stories, so you can have more meaningful conversations with literary agents about who wants to read your story, so you can actually get a good publishing deal instead of just getting whatever you're getting. I'm not going to name any specific names, but there are a lot of publishers out there that are digital first that are basically just, uploading your content to user-generated stuff like KDP and Spotify and whatever else. The authors themselves can always do these things. Those publishers take 50% of the earnings, which I find to be ridiculous, personally. And then they never promote your work at all, and they're representing like tens of thousands of author stories, which they can never promote because they don't have any system in place to promote those stories. They don't own a platform like this, which would make it easy to actually do so. And it really feels kind of like an old school YouTube, machinima kind of deal, Maker Studios deal, where they're just signing up tons of people and hoping that they make some money. But in any case, before you do that deal, you should really consider what I'm offering here, which is very different. It's more, I think you're gonna find it a little bit more favorable. So non-exclusivity, you can upload your story here on BookChant and anywhere else, not exclusive. That includes if you're using our premium system to do author pass, your story does not have to be exclusive. Okay, so it's better than KDP, it's better than Wattpad originals, and it's better than web novel in that regard. And the other thing is that you can cancel and remove it at any time. Okay, so you have full control, 100% rights to your stories. We are not a publisher, a book publisher, and we are not a literary agent, although I'll get to a little bit about how we can help you with that stuff. Um, Discoverability is a big, big deal. Of course, we have our own version of Rising Stars, but then we also have different genre categories that you can search for and find different stuff. And of course, you can search by subcategories as well of the interest tags, like chivalry or whatever else. We've got a lot of tags, a lot more tags, I think, than most other platforms have. And I'm about to add about 20 more to it. So when you finally see the actual launch website, you'll be able to see a lot more of these tags. We go to advanced search. And you can, of course, search by title or description. Here, it does not have to be exact name. If you type in like Chronicle Pandemonia, it would come up anyway. Of course, you can search by stuff, exclude stuff, all the generic experience that you would normally see from a site like this. Okay, and this is also all mobile optimized, so this looks really, really good on a phone or a tablet. It's optimized for all desktop, tablet, and your phone, so you can easily read and experience this stuff without having to use desktop or even have to use a app installed in your phone. Let me show you some stuff for the logged in experience now, so you can see even more of the discoverability. So now I'm in the logged in experience, and the updates is showing here of stuff that I'm following. See the new chapter for feature story, yeah, rankings, and the rankings is much better in my opinion. Right, we've got our daily rankings and we got weekly rankings, so you can see break it down a little bit more easier. New uploads feed, of course, and of course you can click and see the larger leaderboard for all the new stories that are being released and break it down into smaller categories like overall, daily, trend, and weekly, yada yada yada. Okay, but you can also customize your homepage, so you can add a leaderboard that you want to follow. Okay, and you can also do this for interest tags as well. Okay, I'm interested in stories that have martial arts in it, and now I've added that leaderboard, to here, and I can see stuff by daily rankings, weekly rankings, what's currently trending, brand new stories, and overall. So this is a more customizable homepage, so that if you're looking for something that's like not as popular with the rest of the readers of the site, you can actually easily find those stories without having to try to search through a whole bunch of stuff using the search bar, or having to browse, through a bunch of different menus. You can just get it right immediately here in the homepage experience. So there's that. At some point, I plan to integrate some additional discovery methods, things like kind of like Goodreads style reading lists of recommendation lists from users, as well as some AI assistance for, you type into the AI chatbot, I'm looking for a story with, these types of elements, and it will search through the database and find them, even if they're not tagged by the author with those things. That's not in this right now, but it will be. So you can see that the discoverability is already, I think, a lot better than on other sites, because you can, if you're really looking for something super, super niche and you're a writer of those things, you can easily connect to the authors. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? So this is the quick experience that you see on desktop for the site. And as an author, you want to write a story, okay? You can easily do that. You submit a new story. It looks just like you usually see on these sites. You pick your genres, you pick your tags, put your information in there. You do have to put your content warnings on here. Okay, we do require people, if you've AI translated your story from another language other than English, you do need to flag that. If your story contains more than 20% of story text, you need to tag it with AI generated content. If you do not, our automated systems will detect it and it will flag it for you. Okay. We allow people to submit AI generated text. It's kind of impossible to police that, in my opinion, but we can certainly identify it and ensure that other people can see that it is AI generated. So, mature themes, we do allow some mature themes. It's all outlined in our content guidelines. It's pretty standard stuff, no super hardcore eroticism or gratuitous, stuff that would not be monetized. If your story is mature, we're not going to have monetization on it because this is just kind of how the payment processors work. We have to follow their rules. We do allow fan fiction, but fan fiction cannot be monetized. Only original fiction can be monetized on our platform. Okay, it will be submitted, it will be read by an admin, it will be reviewed to make sure you're not engaging in some behavior you're not supposed to be engaging in. Analytics, as I said before, very good detailed analytics. If you have a YouTube account, you've probably seen something like this. Okay, we've got detailed analytics about who the readers are, their age group brackets, as I said before, what devices they're reading on, where the traffic's coming from, what regions of the world they're in. This is all very important information if you want to get a publishing deal, because this is what's going to let the publishers know who your story is appealing to. And without that information, they can't really make much sense of it. And of course, you can see your revenue if you've got an author pass going as well, and breakdowns, of course, of your chapters and how they're doing and such. You can, of course, respond to comments and so forth. The monetization sign up process, picking the tiers that you want, and the onboarding process is all here. I'm not going to go through all that with you, but here are all the steps that you need to go through to sign up. Okay. And more importantly, we're trying to make things super easy for the author, super easy for the author to manage their stories. Lots of people like to do shout outs. Okay, but you have to make your own little code and stuff. You don't have to do that now. Okay, you could just pick some story that you want. Okay, clear the slot. I don't want to have that one being advertised anymore. I want to advertise this one. So now I'm advertising this one. Okay, it's applied. And then when I go to that story, when I go to my story on the page as a reader, and you start reading, here is the shout out card. And it's standardized. You don't have to fiddle with any type of forum code, HTML code. And people can choose to leave the story that they see the shout out on, or they can click follow for later and they will follow that story and it will start appearing in their recommended feed so that they can read it later without having to leave from the chapter that they actually came for. Okay, we've got a little progress bar. You can change the layout and GUI and stuff like that, change the size of the images and whatnot. Okay, all the standard stuff you would expect for it. And of course, go read the next chapter and so forth. You get the general idea. Okay, I'm sure you've seen how one of these chapter reading sites works. It's the same standardized layout you're used to. All right, well, we are making massive improvements, I think, to the user experience, not just for the readers, but also for the authors, helping facilitate the kinds of things that authors already do to help cross promote with the built-in shout out system. Eventually, I'm going to add a scheduler on this to make it even easier for the authors to facilitate their cross promotion. Okay, so now let's talk about content lockers. All right, content lockers. You've seen this before on paid to access stories, right? Where basically there's a pop up, on, let's say, Wattpad, that asks you to, register an account and become a paid member to be able to read something. We have something like that here too. So this is not the content locker here. This is just a reminder for people to be able to register an account to read. But you can just, hit maybe later and then keep reading. But this is the content locker. So let's say that you're stubbing, which is a very common practice amongst web novel creators, usually because the publisher that you're working with doesn't want the chapter to be publicly available anymore, that is in the book, that is the printed version, or that they're trying to drive Kindle sales or whatever it is they're doing. Okay. We fully support that in a very unique way. Here's a content locker, says the chapter's not available, and you can click to buy the book on whatever website you want. In this case, I haven't linked to Amazon to be able to buy the book directly through here. So stubbing is officially supported. But we have other types of content lockers too. So this one requires you to be able to log into your account and then follow the story to be able to continue reading the chapter. So that's just another example of ways that we're helping authors convert their readers into followers. So like, look, let's be brutally honest here about what actually happens on many other web novel platforms, Royal Road especially, right? You've got an imbalanced relationship with the people who are reading the story and the people, the people that are making the story, the authors themselves, right? And that's why you need to have content lockers. This is a very common tactic that's designed to create a more balanced relationship between the reader and the author. If you've got, you know, 20,000 people who are reading your story for free, your whole story uploaded to Royal Road for free, and they're not registering an account on Royal Road, they're just bookmarking it in their browser to read it, and they never rate, they never comment, they never do anything meaningful to help you trend on the website, to give you any feedback. That's not balanced. And it's not just about money, okay? It's not just about them paying you money to read the story. It's about doing the very minimum amount to tell the author that they're even making something that you like, you know? But sometimes readers need incentive, they need encouragement, they need convincing, and the way to do that is with content lockers. So we got a couple different types of lockers. Okay, of course you can put no locker on your story, and honestly I think the first few chapters you definitely shouldn't have any lockers on there, right? But then there's stubbing, which is what many people do. I personally think stubbing is not a great practice, personally, but that's a whole nother matter. But if you want to stub your stuff so that they'll go buy it somewhere else, you can do that now very easily. It's built into the site. Review locker. Require them to have to leave a review to continue reading. And I think this is honestly the best used, after you've released like probably at least like 50,000, maybe 60,000 words. At that point, someone's basically read a whole book worth of your story. They can definitely leave a review for your story, right? And now you have a way to get them to do that so they can continue reading your story, which is by review locking the chapters. And you can also do follow locker as well. You can use these in combination. One, first you try to get them to be a follower, and then in the later chapters, get them to do reviews. And you can also do author pass lockers as well. So by default, when you schedule a story, if you've scheduled the story, I should say the chapter, when you schedule the chapter, when you're able to first publish a story, you can pick a date in the future to release that chapter upon. If you're doing author pass, automatically, it will figure out being early access or not. So if you've got a tier, for your author pass, the first tier is set up so that people can read chapters a week in advance, right? If you release a chapter a week later, they'll be able to read that, but everybody else will not be able to read that chapter that's available. There'll be a little lock button, or not button, but icon. But if you already have a chapter that's been previously released, you can ensure that it is locked behind author pass. So if you're, for whatever reason that there is, maybe you've worked out a deal with your publisher where they're going to get a cut of your author pass subscriptions. That's possible now, which really isn't possible with Patreon. because Patreon really isn't a book publishing platform. But now a publisher that you're doing with deal with, they could get a cut of the web novel subscriptions, similar to Wattpad or similar to webnovel.com. Relationship, of course, you would have to manage it, or the publisher would have to manage it on your behalf. There's a lot of experimentation I think people would be able to do using this. But the important thing to me, and the reason why I did this, is so that the authors themselves can say, look, I've got this story that's been read by hundreds of thousands of people already, and I have put out like 6 books worth of stories. I've got 1,000 chapters on there. I want to help it, boost my sales even more. I think I deserved it. I put in the work, and I've got good content. Obviously, the market likes it. You can now put those chapters behind author pass without having to do a stubbing and driving your audience over to Amazon or wherever else. If you don't want to do that for whatever reason, you can just use BookChant as your primary source of revenue generation if you like. You have that option available to you now, which you don't really have on other platforms, because on those other platforms, you require exclusivity to their platform, which BookChat does not require. You don't have to be exclusive. You can continue to use Patreon. You can continue to use other platforms. You can use Amazon. You can do whatever the fuck you want, to be honest. You have the control. You have the rights to your stories. And this just gives you another means by which to experiment with your business model and test it out. Okay. I really don't care what you do. I just want to give authors options. That's what I want to do. I want to give them options to experiment with different types of business models. They want to work with publishers in new, unique ways that weren't possible before. Now you can do that. Okay. And content lockers will let you do that. And you also get analytics about your lockers as well. Okay. You can see the conversion rates. You can see how well they are working for you. Okay. And of course, you can also see the revenue conversions and things like that too. I don't have any earnings here, so it's not showing that to me, but we've tested this out and it works pretty well. So honestly, I think this is pretty good. It's pretty cool, if I must say so myself. Another thing is that you see that there's latest chapter surveys. At the end of a chapter, the most publicly available chapter of a story, a little survey will pop up that asks if you loved it, liked it, if you mixed about it, if you disliked it, or you hated it. Super easy to fill out. You just press one button, and that feeds the overall rankings for the story. So if you're writing a serial story, I mean, if you're regularly releasing chapters of an ongoing web serial story, you can actually get feedback from the readers of that story, you know, and that will immediately go into the overall scoring for you on the leaderboards, and it will help you trend in the leaderboards. So, again, more meaningful engagement, really trying to help establish and build that relationship between the reader and the author. So it's no longer imbalanced. The authors no longer feel like, I can see that I've got 10,000 views on my story on Royal Road, but nobody's left me a review. Okay, that would never happen on this site the way that it's designed, because at some point the readers will have to log in and follow the story and leave a review for the story that they're reading to be able to continue to read it. Okay, they have to do some type of rating of the story. So you're getting valuable data, and it's really not very intrusive for the reader to fill out. It's still a good experience. Okay, let's talk a little bit about rewards. Right now, we've got virtual rewards, which is our achievement system, which a lot of sites have. Railroad has it too, but I think ours is a little bit more meaningful. As I mentioned before with rating, when people leave ratings, the value of your levels for your reader level will improve the weight of your votes, which is very similar to how sites like Reddit work, where the more karma you have within the community increases your weight for upvotes and downvotes. This also applies now for BookChat for web novel platforms as well. Authors, of course, also get levels as well, which will play into discovery. Authors that have higher levels will get a little bit more discovery within certain mechanics, not within search, but within certain other mechanics that I have not yet introduced, and I'm kind of holding close to my chest at the moment. On a lot of their sites, they want you to pay for the promotion. They want you to, it's kind of Royal Road's a good example of this. And I hate to be so critical of Royal Road. I do. I hate to be so critical of it, but the truth is that, the design of someone's website really tells you a lot about how they view their users of that site, right? And I think that what Royal Road's creators are saying is that they don't want you to have any monetization. And oh, by the way, pay us a bunch of ad money to try to win at the game of Rising Stars, which is the sole meaningful discovery, method on the site, to the point that people will literally delete their stories and re-upload them trying to get into Rising Stars, which I find to be completely ridiculous. So the design of the site really tells you what you feel. So you're rewarding people with experience for the activity that they do. Logging in daily, more pages you read, more comments you do, reviews. Very similar to other achievements. We also have super rating, which I'll get into here in a bit. And of course, the authors also get levels as well, and that will help your discoverability the higher you get. Also, the first 1,000 registered users to the site get a special little achievement called the Founders Coin, which appears on your story profiles. Here's my Founders Coin on the site. Again, first 1,000 people who register the account get the Founders Coin. And I'm not going to say right now, but this has an effect. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. It has an effect. I don't want to play my hand too much, okay? But I have been known to be a bit of a trickster. And there are some fun things in this platform that are hidden. And that's all I'm going to say, okay? So enough of the Founders Coin, but there's mechanics like this that are here to sort of make things fun and a little bit exciting on the site. And of course, we also have achievements for, if you get into the top leaderboards, there's achievements for the genre leaders and the kings and getting on our version of Rising Stars and all that other jazz, okay? And just make it a little bit fun. As I said before, the ratings here, we can see the weekly and the most recent surveys. If you're reading a chapter, the very last chapter that's publicly available, you'll be asked to do a survey of that chapter, which will go into the ratings. So authors are always constantly getting ratings to their stories. I think I can actually show that off here. Let's use the Luther Darkmoor account, Mr. Darkmoor's account, and we will go and look at a story here. Let's look at Carmilla. And if you just go to the very last chapter here and you go down to the very, very end of it, you're going to be asked how the chapter was. And you'll notice that you cannot exit out of this, okay? You have to fill out the survey. It's not super complicated. How did you feel about the story? Did you like it? Then just say you liked it. And then you've got the rating, okay? And then you notice down here at the bottom, super rating, okay? The bottom of every chapter, the reader has the ability to do a super rate. If you really, really love a story, you can do a super rate, which will boost the rating, the ranking of the story by a value multiplied by your reader level. And you can't do it often, okay? You have to charge it up. And you charge it up by reading, commenting, reviewing. Once you got 100 energy, you got 1 charge, you can store 5 charges. And you can super rate a story multiple times if you really, really love it. And the super rates do depreciate. They do have deterioration. They fall off after a week. The weekly ratings do reset every week. Daily rankings obviously reset every day. So there's more opportunities for discovery to stories using mechanics like this. And I just think it makes it a little bit more fun, to be honest, and makes it kind of cool. So that's how that rating system works. We've tried to really optimize this for mobile. Okay, so reader scores are at the top, and you can see the reader reviews at the top, but it's collapsible. It goes right away. Okay, and optimizing the about the story page and so forth of this. So I really think that this is something special. I mean, I'm bragging a little bit, but I think that this is a better user experience than any other web novel platform out there. And this is just the first version, folks. I've got a lot of features I want to add to this thing, and I really want to help other authors. I'm an author myself. I want to help other authors really be able to reach audiences that might have otherwise been difficult with the way discovery works on other web novel platforms. And I want to provide authors with the information that they need to be more successful, to be able to have a meaningful conversation with a literary agent about who precisely your readership are, what the demographics look like, because again, you need to market yourself. And if you don't even know anything about the readers who are like your story, how can you possibly effectively market yourself to other people with similar interests? It's impossible. You've got to know something about them. And I think that's going to make a big deal for a lot of people. So please check it out. I want to give you a little bit more information about me personally, because I know that there's a lot of people that are constantly spamming people on platforms and the discords, and there's all these author service people trying to convince you to pay them a bunch of money, to do things that are like you can do yourself, like upload your stories to to Amazon KDP and whatever else. Um, I'm going to tell you some information about me so you understand who I am as a person and what my values are and why I'm even doing any of this to begin with, right? So, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm Kerry Martell. This is one of my stories, actually. I wrote this story when I was deployed in the Army. I was like 19, 20 something years old. Um, the past few years, I've had more wins, I suppose, than loses, but I've still, I've had my hard knocks in the digital space. I started YouTube Network when that was the big thing. I grew it to 1,000 channel partners, and I sold it to a film studio based in LA called Thunder Studios. Became vice president there, and I learned a tremendous amount about how the inner workings of television and film production and funding and all of that works. And I exited, and when I did that, I continued on with doing a lot of consulting for companies wanting to get into the MCN space with YouTube channel optimization and things like that. Mostly in the music space, to be honest, because of the nature of the content ID system and all that. But I also did a video streaming platform called Zenither, which is based on a prototype I had been working on for many years before, even when I was doing the YouTube MCN stuff. I was doing this before, I think Netflix had just barely started doing video streaming when I was putting together my app. Um, and I did that, got 12 patents, or maybe it was 13 patents. I can't remember anymore. I got a bunch of patents on the video streaming technology behind it, especially as it pertains to the way that we were doing ad insertion into the streams. Um, there are various reasons why the stream platform did not succeed. The biggest one, I think, is even though we raised about $1 million, you know, part from me, part from others, we had a really difficult time raising funding from other companies because Jeffrey Katzenberg, I mean, he put together Quibi and raised like $2 billion from all the people I was trying to raise from, and it's really hard to fund against the founder of frickin' DreamWorks. So people invested in that instead of mine, and then when it tanked inevitably as it was going to, because it was a stupid idea, um, it kind of poisoned the well. Nobody thought that I could get a platform going if Jeffrey Katzenberg couldn't do it. And we didn't own a content library, so that really was a big strike against us. So it just didn't work. It had to, the company's basically defunct, sold off the patent portfolio to Adea, who owns all the TiVo patents, and recouped the investment money. So since then, for many, several years since then, I've been trying to figure out how to best leverage my knowledge, my connections in the entertainment space, my background as a digital entrepreneur, software developer, what I can do to contribute and still, still be part of the industry. And this is what I've come up with. I think that I can really help a lot of people, especially in more niche genres like lit RPG, which I like. Um, Help them actually make that transition into the more mainstream, if you will, to be able to not just get the deals with the big publishers that they want to be with, but also get other adaptations into other media like film, TV, games, etc. Because I know all the people to do that. I know how that all works. I had to learn to do all this stuff as a manager of a YouTube MCN, as someone as an executive at a film studio, and of course while I was putting together my own streaming platform. I had to learn all this stuff and build all those connections, and I have all those connections even if Zenithor didn't work out so well. And I think I can leverage them. So me personally, as an author, Pandemonium Chronicles, I wrote this, as I said, when I was a kid. I too went through the whole hang out on Absolute Right water cooler all day, chatting and networking and learning from more experienced authors, reading all the agent, the literary agent blogs of advice, submitting and querying to all the agents. And you're gonna find this funny. You're gonna find it real funny. I was doing this like back in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 era, and I repeatedly got told that my writing was good, um, but there was no market for portal fantasies, isekais, in which I'm sure everybody, now thinks is kind of funny. But that's how it was. If you weren't writing chick lit, you weren't writing urban fantasy, which is now known as romantasy, nobody wanted you. And it was tough. It was really tough. I ended up onto one of the first web novel platforms, which was done by HarperCollins, called Authonami, which is no longer around, but it was advertised as a digital slush pile. And they claimed that if you got to the top, rankings, then they would take on your story and publish it. And they did that for like a couple of them, and then they stopped. I also uploaded it elsewhere, tokyopop.com, back in, I think about like 2000. Where was it? I actually put it in the bio here. Yeah, so 2006, 2010, Tokyo Pop had their own autonomy web novel platform on there, and I ranked number one, number two for all those years. This story here on my site, and um, I actually got a conversation. I had a chat with their acquisition editor because it was popular, and she told me, Tokyo Pop's acquisition editor told me that she didn't think there was a market for isekais. So that probably gives you a little bit of an insight into how the Tokyo Pop Originals program was being ran. Um, and I just became so disenchanted. I became so disenchanted with traditional publishing. I just did. And I decided to go all in on YouTube, uh, which I had a channel which was getting, some of my funny videos, my prank videos, and other goofy things I was putting up on there was doing well. I had an idea for doing a web series, which was going to be kind of like a Power Ranger Kamen Rider parody. And I went to film school, and I started my channel and got millions of views that way, and then turned that into a YouTube MCN, which is kind of like a talent agency, really. Um, and just focused a lot on that. And I still wrote under pen names. I still wrote screenplays. I wrote a bunch of commercials. So, of course, I have nonfiction writing that I do as well. So I am an author myself. I think I really understand the needs of authors and what authors are looking for, and some of the blind spots between what authors think that they should be doing or what they think is a good deal versus what a good deal actually is, what is actually capable and possible for those authors. Because of my experience in the more professional business end of things, I have a wider perspective on the matter. So I think that I can do a lot for authors, and I think I can do a lot for publishers too. And I think that BookChant can be a very effective platform. But what I need is people. I need people to say, yeah, this is good. This seems worthwhile. Let's try it out. Let's see if we build an audience here. See if my story thrives here. So I hope that, sharing this, being open about this stuff, will make people curious enough to at least check out the site and sign up an account and, see what's there for you. If you got any questions, I'm happy to answer it. I will be attending Lit RPG convention here in I think it's the second week of July. I will be there. People want to meet me, you can just message me through my account, and I'll be happy to show you what I've got going and talk to you in person. So, thank you.